My name is Simone Nizell. I am the public education specialist at Cosumnes Fire Department.
And I'm Corinne Carpenter. I'm a fire prevention officer with Sacramento Fire.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out today. We're excited that you're here to engage in lifelong learning and to learn a little bit more about smoke alarms, smoke detectors. They might seem straightforward, but we still get quite a few calls from the community about what the sounds mean, how they work, and so we just want to demystify them a little bit. They're such important tools for fire safety. So let's run down our agenda for today.
All right. So today we're going to go over the California law and smoke alarms. We're going to go over how smoke alarms work, the proper installation and placement methods, smoke alarm sounds, smoke alarm maintenance, and smoke alarm resources.
Great.
All right.
And our objectives for today, since we are taking a class together, just to recognize the importance of smoke alarms in home safety, to identify the different sounds that smoke alarms make, proper smoke alarm maintenance, and then local smoke alarm resources. All right, so to frame this for you a little bit, we wanted to start out with some statistics about fire safety as they pertain to older adults and seniors. So it's interesting, your risk of dying in a home fire actually increases as you get older. FEMA and the NFPA report that adults ages 65 to 74 have 2.2 times higher risk of dying in a fire. And they did like a longitudinal or a long-term study to get these numbers. And though that risk for dying in a fire actually goes up to 3.1 times for ages 75 to 84. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this, but it's important to pay attention to these numbers and remember that our smoke alarms are really the best tools for us to stay aware of any danger in our home, especially as it relates to fire safety. So we want these to be in good working order. We want to know what they mean when they're talking to us. And we want to know when they expire. Because if you can believe it, these things have a shelf life too. Okay. So really quickly, I want to just highlight something that's of interest. California law in 2014, the California State Fire Marshal actually changed the requirements for retailers of smoke alarms. So just out of curiosity, how many of you in here have a smoke detector in your house that uses like a 9-volt battery? You have to change that battery out. Okay, I see a couple people with their hands up. Okay, now those we tend to see in hardwired smoke alarm units, the ones that you have to connect to an electrical panel in your house, or we see those in older smoke alarms, those that are more than 10 years old, okay? Because as of 2014, the California State Fire Marshal required that sellers of smoke alarms in our state include a self-contained 10-year battery. Meaning that if you're purchasing a battery-operated smoke alarm, it has to have a battery that's going to last you 10 years, the life of the smoke detector, so that you're not changing out those batteries anymore. Now, it's different, again, if you have hardwired smoke detectors in your home. Can I just kind of get a show of hands? How many of you have those hardwired smoke detectors? They connect to an electrical panel in your house. I see a couple people raise their hands. You have both. Okay. Those hardwired smoke detectors will still have those 9-volt batteries in them, and that battery is a backup, right? What happens if the electricity goes out? Well, we don't want your smoke detectors not to operate if there's an electrical outage, so those 9-volt batteries are a backup. But so you know, if you go and purchase a standalone, right, California law has made it requirement that smoke alarms have, battery-operated smoke alarms have a 10-year sealed, self-contained battery. So that means that you don't worry about changing out the batteries for these guys. Once it starts dying, it's done, right?
Yep.
So the whole system, you have to replace the whole unit.
Exactly.
Just the battery.
We got a great question. When that 10-year, or excuse me, when a unit with a 10-year self-contained battery dies, that whole unit is done, right? Perfect. All right, let's talk a little bit about how smoke alarms work, right?
Yep.
Okay, I want to try to simplify this because there's different types of smoke alarms. We have photoelectric and ionization smoke alarms, and then we have some that are combination, so they do both of these things. And at the kind of the basic way to think about this with photoelectric smoke alarms, what happens, where do we typically see our smoke alarms, by the way? Up on the ceiling, high up on the wall, right? And why is that? Smoke rises, you got it, right? So we see them up high. The smoke particles will enter into a smoke detector, and in a photoelectric smoke detector, what happens is that they basically interrupt this LED light source, right? The smoke particles will kind of obscure that light source, and that's what tells the alarm to freak out, right? Oh, there's something wrong. The light's going off. With the ionization type smoke alarms, it's all about electrical charge, right? Smoke particles are just going to still do their same thing. They're going to float up high, right? Because heat rises, smoke rises, right? But what they'll do is that they'll change the charge within that smoke detector, okay? So really that's sort of the simplest way I can describe the two. We're seeing in a lot of units, though, also a combination of these technologies because essentially both are effective at detecting the danger of smoke. And Corinne, correct me if I'm wrong, but with fire, smoke is the killer.
Yes, because our homes are made with a lot of plastic items now. It's not like homes in the past where you have wooden dining tables, chairs. There's so much plastics, whether it's computers or just any household item. So the smoke is much thicker, it's black, it's hard to see, so that the moment smoke is in the home, we want to get out.
We do. Really, the smoke, as Corinne has highlighted, smoke is so toxic that it can take you out. One of the firefighters I work with shared a story about a man in a structure fire. He was evacuating from the home, big guy, maybe over 6 feet, unfortunately inhaled a big whiff of that toxic smoke and just went down like a fallen tree. And so the smoke is really not only the killer, but it can compromise your ability to get out safely. So we want to pay attention when our smoke alarm sounds, and that actually leads us into
the installation and placement. So for everybody with a home, every single bedroom should have its own smoke detector. And when we talk about bedrooms, a lot of families are different nowadays, and a room that wasn't really designed for a bedroom now is. So it's anywhere people sleep, we want to have a smoke detector in that area. So each room for sleeping, and then the hallways in between bedrooms, those corridors have to have a smoke detector as well. And if you live in a 2-story home, we want them on all levels. So hallways on both levels of the home. It's important too that they're not so close right next to the inside a bathroom or in the kitchen, because as Simone was talking about, steam can even set them off because it's sensing that as it could possibly be smoke. So we don't want to get a false alarm. So we want to put those in the appropriate places, which are bedrooms and hallways.
And I believe, Corinne, correct me if I'm wrong, when your smoke alarm goes off by accident because it's detecting steam or something, we call that a nuisance alarm, right?
Right.
And we call it a nuisance alarm because, well, we're going to play some of the sounds for you, right? I'm sure you've already heard them, but we want to make sure everybody knows what the different sounds are, what they mean, and as annoying as some of these sounds might be, they are critical to pay attention to in an emergency. So, okay, When you hear a smoke alarm chirp, what that is signaling is a low battery or the end of the smoke detector's life, okay? And we're gonna play that chirp sound for you. Are you ready? You guys are like, oh God, no. I know what that sounds like. But just so we're all clear, this is the chirp. Thank you for that. So you'll notice that with that chirping sound, it's intermittent, right? It's crazy making, but it is a clear indication that it is time to either change out that 9-volt battery in a hardwired unit, or it's time to replace the battery-only operated unit, right? And we want working smoke detectors in our homes for the reasons that we cited before. So those statistics we gave you at the very beginning about how your risk of dying in a home fire increases as you get older. If you are in a home that does not have working smoke detectors, right, and you're not aware of the different sounds, or let's say you or someone you love is hard of hearing, right, that is going to increase the risk of missing out on the critical information that this piece of technology is giving you to get out. Because with fire, really, we only have a really short window of time to get to safety. And all the tools that we've created for ourselves, whether it be fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, they give us time to get out. Sprinklers as well. It's always funny to me, I'll just make a quick aside here. With sprinklers, people assume that when, if I have a sprinkler system inside my house, then I'm safe. If a fire starts, the water will put it out. No, actually, it's quite the opposite. All it does is give you a little bit of time to escape. So we're gonna go back to that slide. You know what the chirp sounds like. Low battery or the unit is dying. Now let's talk about the beep. Corinne, can you demonstrate the beeping for us? She's gonna press the test button here. Just wanna warn you, it's nice and loud, so you'll be able to hear it in the back. Okay. Typically what you'll hear is that beeping sound. Can you play it for us one more time?
Oh, sure.
You'll hear that beeping sound on a continuous loop. So with the chirp, it's that intermittent, crazy making. You think that it's over, but nope, there it is. Like 10 minutes later, the beeping is just gonna keep beeping on a continuous loop, right? We wanna pay attention to this. Now with a nuisance alarm, let's say you're cooking in your kitchen and unfortunately the smoke detector picks up on something that you're frying or sauteing, right? You know where the source of that smoke is coming from. That's a little different. We can respond differently. But if out of nowhere you're hearing that beeping sound, that is telling you that you need to get up and leave, right? We don't wanna wait. And we don't want to breathe in toxic smoke, okay?
And most fires do start while you're sleeping, so they're usually between 1 and 4 a.m. So if you hear that while you're sleeping, it's a good idea to get up and try to get out.
Exactly. You're not cooking in the middle of the night, hopefully, right? Okay. Everybody feel good about chirp versus beep? I still get calls about this. I'll get calls about chirps. Someone will call me in a panic. Oh my gosh, I think that my smoke alarm is malfunctioning, or it keeps chirping. Does that mean that I need to get out of my house? And we have to kind of run this down. I don't know if you experience the same thing.
We do.
Right.
I often do apartment inspections, and I just hear them immediately as soon as I walk on site. So I'm always trying to track down, because some people, they ignore it and they don't pay attention that that's chirping.
Right. Or worst case scenario, they hear it, it bothers them, and then they just decide to detach the smoke alarm altogether. Okay, we don't want that. We want working smoke alarms in your house. If you disable a smoke alarm, then obviously your risk is going to increase. All right. Let's talk a little bit about smoke alarm maintenance.
All right. So for checking your smoke alarms, you want to test them once a month. So that's just as simple as what I did, pushing that button and making sure that it actually makes the alarm sound and alerts you. So once a month, if you put it on your calendar and remember to do that, a lot of people think it's once a year or once every 6 months, but just a quick test of each device. You want to make sure in every room, every device in the hallways are all in working order.
Something to be said about the test, we understand that, these are high up on the ceiling, high up on the wall. Sometimes it's challenging as a senior to do that. And unfortunately, as we get older, our risk of falling increases. We don't want to encourage you to put yourself in unnecessary danger to test your smoke alarm. So this would be a good opportunity to find someone in your community who can get on the ladder safely and help you with that, right? And you can be the coordinator, right? Okay, on June 10th, this is when we're doing our smoke alarm testing, right? And we're gonna do that once a month. So younger people in your life who maybe can help you out and again, access a ladder safely would be good people to tap.
Yeah.
For that task.
And some people use a broom handle and just get up there, and if you can
that.
reach the buttons, some of the buttons are not easy to press like that. It's kind of designed for a fingertip, but if you can do that with a broom handle, I would recommend that as well.
Yeah.
All right, and then as Simone's discussed, replacing your smoke detectors after 10 years, because those parts that are the photo sensing or the smell detecting, they stop working after any amount of time. So 10 years is the drop dead, get rid of it, replace that. You can also tell because they always come in this white color. You'll see in homes that are an older unit, they start turning yellow, and that's always my first indication of we should probably check the date. And they're placing the dates now on the actual device. So if you disconnect it from the ceiling, you can see the date that it was manufactured, and that will let you know when you need to replace that. Some people will actually write it with a Sharpie on the side of the device, just so you know, and it reminds you of time to change it out.
Can I just add with hardwired smoke alarm units, this expiration date is something to pay attention to as well. Sometimes we will get calls from the community where people will say, oh, I have the same hardwired smoke alarms that I had when I purchased the house 30 years ago, and it keeps beeping at me. Typically, if your smoke alarm, whether it's hardwired or the self-contained battery, if it's older than 10 years, it's probably time to look at replacing it. So keep that in mind. So a couple of resources, and then we'll open it up for questions. Now, smoke alarms rely really heavily on our sense of hearing, okay? And not everyone has a keen sense of hearing, right? If you have any sort of hearing impairment, we still want you to be safe, and there are adaptations. There are different types of smoke detectors that can accommodate people with hearing impairment. So I want to point out a couple of options that we have. Some of our smoke alarms will have these strobe lights, right? The really obnoxious strobe lights, right? Like what you might see in a terrible club or what you'll see in commercial buildings, right? Which are required to have them. So those strobe lights act as that beeping sound, basically, or they act in tandem with that beeping sound to alert you to get out. Now, that might work for some people. Other people, maybe they have hearing impairment, or maybe they're very deep sleepers. As Corinne said, a lot of home fires happen in the middle of the night. If you're a deep sleeper and you don't respond to sound, you don't respond to flashing light, you don't respond to someone in your household yelling at you, right? Or okay, you might respond to physical shaking, right? So some smoke alarm units have what we call shakers on them. And you can slip them underneath your pillow and they will vibrate when the smoke detector goes off in an emergency. So not only will you get a sound, sometimes the face of the smoke detector will flash fire, and then in addition to that, there'll be a shaker unit to wake you up, okay? So there are devices that accommodate different needs. And we want you to be aware of those so that you don't say, oh, well, my hearing isn't as good as it used to be, I guess. I guess I'm off the hook here. No, we still want you to be safe. So make sure that you look into those devices if you need them. Okay, another resource I just want to make a quick plug for before we open it up for questions. Actually, 2 resources available to you. So Corinne is here representing Sacramento Fire, which serves this jurisdiction, right? South Sacramento. Cosumnes Fire, where I'm coming from, is adjacent to Corinne's territory. We serve Elk Grove, City of Elk Grove, and City of Galt, but you still might see us in South Sacramento, especially some of our medics or ambulances. But one of the services that we provide residents in the City of Elk Grove and the City of Galt is a smoke alarm battery change or unit change program. So I'll just go back to that slide really quickly so we can see what that looks like. So I want to highlight that this is, I don't know why I turned around. I'm so used to having slides behind me. I want to highlight that our fire department provides this for our constituents, and it is completely free of charge. If you live in the City of Elk Grove or the City of Galt, or you know someone who lives in those cities, and they're maybe a senior citizen, or maybe they have mobility issues, it's difficult to get up on a ladder, they can fill out a short form, and our engine crews will work around emergency calls to go out to their home and actually install new units or change out batteries as needed. Okay, so it's a great service, and it's something that we want the public to be aware of because we're focusing on community risk reduction. Obviously, we want you to take fire safety seriously, but fall safety is also very important. A lot of the emergency calls that the fire department gets are related to falls, and we do not want anyone who's unsteady on their feet to try to get up on a ladder because they're trying to be fire safe. That sort of defeats the whole purpose. So we try to make it work, okay? The last resource that I'll point out to you, if you don't live in City of Elk Grove or City of Galt, the American Red Cross is a really wonderful resource. They actually have something called Sound the Alarm program, and they often will collaborate with local fire departments and give away smoke alarms and recruit volunteers to install them. So it's a really good service. It kind of works similarly to the program we have at Cosumnes Fire. And the local office for the American Red Cross here is called the Gold Country region. If you would like to learn more, the website is on the screen, and they're just, again, a great resource. They tend to get a lot of these 10-year smoke alarm units, and they have them available to the public for their sound alarm. I believe they're like a check and change programs or something like that. No, it is called a smoke alarm blitz is what they call it, a smoke alarm blitz. So something to look into potentially for the future. And with that, we just want to thank you again for your time. We're going to go back to our first slide here and open it up for questions from the audience, if you have any.
Yes, I remember one time, a long time ago, we had a beeping alarm, and then we checked all around. There was no smoke. We looked in the hallway. There was no smoke. But then my care provider looked outside and he saw that the unit next to ours had an actual fire.
Oh.
And I learned that she or he occasionally gets the stove too hot. sets off the alarm.
Okay, so it sounds like your alarm was picking up on some smoke from a neighbor's unit, and that neighbor was cooking and maybe had an alarm that was too close to the kitchen area, which, going back to what Corinne shared before, we want to be intentional about where we place our smoke alarms. Otherwise, we will get nuisance alarms, right? We don't want them too close to the kitchen, too close to the bathroom area. But I like that your smoke alarm, it sounds like it was very sensitive, which is good. It means it's working in good working order and it's keeping you safe.
That's great.
I'm, I live in different care homes. So I'm sure I'm protected all the way around.
Good. I like that. It sounds like in the care home that you referenced before, there was a unit inside your bedroom. Sounds like there was one in the hall, and then there was one maybe in your neighbor's unit as well in their sleeping area, and that's what we like to see for sure. Other questions? Yes, in the back.
Can you replay the chirp and the other ones?
The chirp and the beep?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's go back to that slide really quickly. In case you want to take a picture of this, right, what they mean. Chirp, low battery or end of life. Beep is an emergency, smoke detected. And we'll go ahead and play the chirp sound for you first. Okay. And Corinne, can you model our beep sound for
All
us?
right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Right. And again, the difference is with the chirp, it's intermittent, right? It's going to happen. You're going to think, oh, it went away, right? And then it'll come out of nowhere, right? The beeping is going to play on a loop.
Okay, the chirp one though, you can turn it off, right?
You can hit the test button or sometimes the test button, for instance, in the prop we have here, acts as a silencer too. It's the test and silence button. But what we don't want you to do is to silence it and just ignore it. Like if you hear that chirp, it's telling you that the battery needs to be replaced or the unit needs to be replaced. So obviously, you can silence it if you need to get a night's sleep, but we would urge you to go and get a new unit as quickly as possible.
Is it best to get a new unit or just replace the battery?
So again, I just want to differentiate between the types of smoke alarms that we have out there, right? If you're buying what I'll call a standalone, right? One like this that you would get in a box, you'd purchase this at Lowe's or Home Depot, right? It comes with a self-contained 10-year battery, right? Because of California law. I'm going to go back to that slide really quickly. In 2014, California State Fire Marshal decided, you know what? We don't want to make people change out the batteries on these standalones anymore. So we're just going to include a 10-year battery in these. Now, a hardwired unit, the ones that plug directly into that electrical panel in your house, and you can't miss them, right? Because they have wires and everything. They used to drive my mom crazy in our house, right? Those will have your 9-volt batteries that need to be changed out. And Corinne, how often do we change out the 9-volt?
Every 6 months. So think about daylight savings, spring and fall, change it.
Yep.
But you'll see the date on the unit itself. So if it's 10 years old, it's time to replace it.
Yeah.
And then even in the ones that have the 9-volt battery, sometimes it'll still continue to chirp even after you've replaced the battery. And that's telling you that the whole device needs to be changed out.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Great question. Yes, sir.
To add to that, if you have a hot wire system, which I have, when you hear a chirp, it means that one of the unit in, let's say, a faraway bedroom battery needs to be replaced. do you recommend we do all of them? You might as well, I have 4 others in the bedrooms as well, so that's gonna come around later. Or just do the one and then wait for the others to chirp.
So it depends.
Great
So
question.
have you changed them all in the last 6 months and it's only one? Then I would change the one. But if you're just waiting until it chirps to change the battery, I would change all of them. Yeah.
That's a guideline.
Okay.
It'll make your life easier so you're not kind of playing, what's that game? Whack-a-mole, right? With your smoke alarms. Over here, we had a question.
Yeah, if you are replacing your hardwire old 9-volt battery, do you use the new, smoke alarm? Do you use the 10-year battery to replace it?
Go-
Or is it not interchangeable or?
So that's a great question. It just depends on what brand you use, right? Corinne, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are hardwired units that come. All hardwired units have to have a replaceable battery because those are backups, right?
I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
It may have the 10-year as well.
Okay.
I'd have to look into it.
That's something actually I need to do a little bit more research on as well. But a hardwired unit, it has to have that backup battery, and it has to have the ability. If you think about it, yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm not 100% sure. It's very likely, but anything that's standalone has to have that sealed, self-contained unit.
Because our home is 20 years old.
Yeah.
We've not replaced anything but that chirpy.
But the yeah.
And you just want to sleep, and you just know, because you run around the house thinking, where's the smoke? And
Yeah.
You walk outside. And
Yeah.
I'm looking for smoke, I'm looking for fire, I'm looking, is anything hot? You're running around, checking doors. Nope, going garage. I mean, you're going everywhere just to make sure you really don't have an issue. Because you can't just assume, oh, it's just a battery. Maybe it's not just a battery.
Exactly.
So unfortunately,
And I think what you said is key. You can't just assume.
No,
So
you cannot.
it's a good idea given the fact that you mentioned that, you moved into your home 20 years ago.
Yes.
I would take one of the units off and look at the date on the back and see kind of what its lifespan is for that particular manufacturer.
So will it actually have a date on it?
It should, yes.
Being that, I never think 20 years is that much, but it really is.
I know, it goes by in a blink.
So forgive me.
No. And what you want to look for too on this slide that we have up is this seal. So you'll see this little black and white seal with listing state of California. That's what you want to see on any units that you decide to purchase, because how many of you shop on Amazon or online at all? Okay, there are vendors out of state, right, who do not need to be in compliance with California law, right? We want to make sure that we're getting smoke detectors that are in compliance with our state fire marshal. And really, California does its best to promote fire safety through these measures, right? And to promote fire safety in a way that's convenient for people. I think the 10-year self-contained battery is a pretty awesome option versus having to change it out regularly. 2 questions over here. We'll start in the back and then we'll come to the front.
I had some work done in my home with our heating system,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really thought about it until you're speaking. Before, we would have smoke alarms in the house, and my husband hated the sound, and he would take the battery out. And so when I had this heating system put in, before they would sign off on it or anything, they went and put smoke alarms in every
Yes.
bedroom, every hall, every place. Probably on the head of his bed. Honestly, God, they're everywhere in the house. And
Yes.
they must be your 10-year batteries because they haven't chirped, and he hasn't had to have anything taken out. So
Yes.
And in addition, I bet they put in a carbon monoxide detector as well. So those are all required when you pull a building permit for anything. You either have to fill out an affidavit stating that you do have smoke detectors in every bedroom, hallway, both levels of the home, and a carbon monoxide detector on each level of the home. Those are a requirement. So if you don't fill out that affidavit, and let's just say your HVAC worker noticed, oh, there are missing smoke detectors, it's their duty as a public safety or public servant that they have to help you out with that. So it's not no cost, because I'm sure they charged or included that in the cost of the work that they did. But it's really great that that's kind of a backup, because we don't get to go in everyone's homes usually until there's a fire. And so that's a preventative way that the state has decided to remedy that situation.
Yeah. You're extra safe now, and it sounds like there's no more of that incessant chirping because they put in some 10 years. In the front here.
Yeah, sometimes you hear in news that the house catches on fire because of electrical problem. Is that due to faulty wiring, or is it due to malfunctioning appliance or something?
It's like
All of the above.
yeah.
So,
A big reason why we see electrical fires are things that are improperly being used. So frayed cords. So if you have a cord that maybe you've rolled over it with the vacuum, or it's been damaged in some way and now it has exposed wiring, or you had a pet that chewed on it, that can start a fire. Extension cords, so those really inexpensive brown ones you get from, like a dollar store type of thing, they're not UL listed. A lot of times they're not rated to use with heating appliances, so you can't run a space heater with an extension cord. Things like that do cause home fires pretty frequently. So there are safety things that we can do to prevent that. So extension cord usage should be very limited and very temporary, and make sure that it's UL listed and you're using products that are approved to use. So that's a big one. As a homeowner, that's something that you can avoid. And then there's faulty wiring. There's older homes that maybe had some damage that over the years never got resolved, and that can create damage.
okay, so if I have a little Ronco rotisserie thing,
Yes.
I noticed that the cord, the plug was warm, was hot. But, so is that something that's a danger, or is it something that,
Do you plug it directly into the wall?
direct into an outlet?
Okay.
But then the wire's not frayed, but then the plastic cover and the wire itself is, warm or hot.
Hot to the touch.
Yeah, I would contact the manufacturer and ask them if that's standard of the product, or if maybe it needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Yeah.
So only use it as just unplug it if you're not using it.
Absolutely. Well, it's
Yes.
a great idea, because you can plug something in and it's still charging electricity. So if you're not using an item, it's great to unplug it.
So any appliance, if you notice the cord is warm, it shouldn't be warm.
Yeah, I would reach out to the manufacturer to send an email or call their customer service and ask them if that's typical of that product. But we don't like to feel hot things when you're plugging them into electricity.
Right. We want to be mindful if we're sensing extra heat on any electrical cords, for sure. I think what Corinne said is very important. Contact the manufacturer. If your appliance is cooking related, just a quick plug for this. Cooking fires are still the #1 source of house fires in the United States. Just be mindful. Watch what you are cooking, right? Stand by your pan is a popular catchphrase, or keep an eye on what you fry, right? And just going back to your question, sir, about appliances, it is a good idea to unplug if you're not using something. Not only does it help to save electricity or conserve electricity, it's just good practice, right? Large appliances or larger appliances like your refrigerator obviously stay plugged in, but do you need your blender plugged into the wall all the time? We also don't want to see outlets overloaded. That can cause issues, as well as the extension cords. So I don't know if you've ever walked into someone else's home. Of course, this would never be in your house. Never, I would never assume that. But someone else's home, and you've seen like daisy chaining of power outlets 10, 15 things plugged into the wall, right? That's a hazard that we want to be aware of, right? So be mindful of electrical appliances and conserve energy when you can. It's good practice. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Over the years, like more than 20, I've had many different cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And I always notice that when I unplug it, it's ring out.
Mm-hmm.
Different ones, because every time you get a cell phone, you also get the cord, you know. But, so it's many different kinds, and I never thought anything about that.
That's a great point. So I work a lot with kids, and kids are notorious for holding their phone and watching videos until they fall asleep at night. And now that hot device is charging in their bed with them. So that's when we see bedroom fires, it's typically because of a device that's like that. And so the rule with charging a cell phone is don't do it while you're sleeping. Do it while you're awake and you're aware of what's going on. And it should be on a hard surface that's not a flammable surface. So never on the couch, never on your bed, because it does get hot. Those are known to get hot. And so something like this, a wooden table, is the best place to charge. Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Yes, over here.
I have a question on hard of hearing. They have that strobe light. Does the sound come with it at the same time, or does it just flash?
That's fine. It depends on the unit that you purchase. So they have different models. Typically common smoke alarms that have accommodations for those who have hard of hearing have multiple technologies. So they'll have the strobe, or they'll have an LED face that will flash the word fire or emergency, and then they'll have a bed shaker unit, or they'll have it sound. So they kind of try to hit it from a number of different angles. Really, you want to be strategic about these and where you place them, right? If a strobe light might be, or a strobe smoke detector might be appropriate in a hallway, right, or outside of a sleeping area. A smoke alarm with a bed shaker unit might be more appropriate in the bedroom, right, if you're hard of hearing. So that's something to consider when you're finding something that accommodates you. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes, but we have so many questions. I love it. Okay.
Tell my seat buddy, she didn't think I was fast.
Oh, okay. We'll go to you, and then we'll bounce to the front.
I'm a little timid. This subject is not necessarily about the smoke alarms. Fire extinguisher for the home, bought in a big box store. No indication on the outside of the box how long the charge is to eliminate the fire.
Do I have any around here?
Shoot, yeah.
I know it's usually a very short period,
Yes.
and
So
people think it's gonna last like 10 minutes. It really does not.
Exactly.
they last about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So there's a few things with fire extinguishers. They say the shelf life is about 1 year.
Oh,
Yes.
it was not, well, once you use it, it's not.
And
Once you use it,
yes.
it's done. But in a commercial building, when I do inspections, it has to be serviced annually to ensure that everything is still working. And they do refill whatever chemical compound is in that particular extinguisher as needed. So if I'll find one before you all leave today. So they do have a little dial right on near the nozzle, and it will indicate the charge. And if it's in the green, so it's a little indicating needle, it needs to be in the green, and that means it's fully charged and has pressure. So that's what you would want to look at. So the ones that I have at home, they are a little older than a year. But I give it a shake every now and then, move it around, because what's in there, depending on the type of extinguisher, it could be a powder, and it will start kind of like a bag of flour that's sitting in the pantry. It'll kind of smash down. So I just mix it up, make sure that it's still working. But at 1 year, and then you want to check that the pin is still engaged, it's still inside, and it's in the green. But I'll find one before we leave, and I'll show you.
I know where there is one,
Perfect.
Perfect.
Just down the hall.
before you get to the administration room.
I'm glad someone is aware of where the fire extinguisher is.
Well, you don't want to know the rest of the story. I actually have another question unless somebody else has one.
We had one in the front, so we'll bounce to the front and then we'll bounce back to you. Go ahead, ma'am. What's your question? Yes.
I have fire extinguishers, no, alarms, it's 18 years old. It's fine except changing the battery.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we have now a 10-year disposable? What's the reason for it?
So these units were never meant to stay in your home for 20, 30 years. They need to be changed after 10 because the technology, it is improving slightly, but a lot of the old units, it's the same technology and they don't last forever. It's like any sort of appliance or any item, they wear out after a while. And so its ability to either see the smoke or sense the smoke, it goes away. So those I would not guarantee are in perfect working condition.
Yeah.
I know mine's working fine though.
Just be aware, as Corinne said, that over time, the technology, kind of going back to the slide where we were talking about how smoke alarms work, the technology degrades over time. We do, at Cosumnes Fire, we do car seat checks, right? And people are always surprised to hear that car seats expire. They're like, this looks perfectly fine. I've had this car seat here. I put my child in it and he's 40 years old, right? Well, the technology's changed over the course of time and we can't necessarily guarantee that the plastic hasn't degraded, right? That it doesn't have the same ability to absorb shock the way that we need it to protect a baby. Just as an analogy to the smoke detector, that technology, whether it's a photoelectric smoke alarm or an ionization smoke alarm, it's going to degrade over time. So it's a good idea after 10 years to replace them. Again, just want to make sure you know if you have hardwired, right, if they start to look yellow, right, if you're noticing that the unit isn't this white color anymore, that's an indication that they might need to be changed out, even if you're not hearing them chirp regularly. Okay.
My hardwire is connected to alarm system.
Uh-huh.
They've never required that I change that.
Got it. So that might be a conversation to have with your alarm company too. Let them know the age of the units and ask them, is at this point, if I were to change these out, how would it affect the way that the alarm units are able to talk to one another? They're interconnected, hardwired?
No, it's the hardwire and the standalone battery one, they're separate systems.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I would change them out.
The hardwire?
I would change out any smoke detector after 10 years. That's our messaging.
I still want to know why did they make it disposable?
Okay, so the new ones, it's a 10-year battery. All batteries are disposable. You throw them away when they stop working.
The whole unit. Okay, so do you mind if I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and so California law changed in 2014. That's the slide that we have up here. Because the state fire marshal noticed that not all people are as diligent about changing the batteries for their standalone units. And so with hardwired, it's different. Hardwired, the battery is just a backup in case the electrical unit goes down. With a standalone unit like this, the battery is the thing that makes this work, right? And if a person is not willing or able to change the battery regularly, then this thing is just sitting up on the wall doing nothing, right? Now, California State Fire Marshal is smart enough to know there are some people who will change them out, but there are many who don't, and they're at a higher risk. How can we decrease the risk for the people we know are not going to change batteries regularly? Let's create a unit with a self-contained battery that they don't have to worry about for 10 years, right?
How can they stand the chirping though?
Well,
It doesn't chirp if it's working.
Doesn't
It
chirp if
chirps
it's
to let you know it's not working.
Yes.
Mine chirps when I need a new battery.
Yes, but you mentioned that you have a hardwired unit, right? So the hardwired unit has a battery inside of it that is the backup, and it's chirping at you to let you know that battery needs to be changed. That hardwired is different than the standalone.
The standalone chirps all the time.
Okay, then that is something that you might want to investigate, because it is possible for a standalone unit to have a malfunction, right? Maybe it's brand new. I've gotten calls from people, they're like, I just installed this smoke alarm, it has a 10-year battery and it's already chirping. And I'll ask them, well, how long has it been doing this? Have you contacted the manufacturer? It's possible that there might be a malfunction in that particular unit.
It only chirps when the battery's low.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
We can talk more
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. We'll maybe check in. We had one last question behind you, and then I think we're going to wrap up.
Is it me?
Yes.
Thank you. Has nothing to do with the fire alarms. It's about the lithium batteries,
Okay.
which are now becoming more popular with the solar generators,
Mhm.
which supposedly you can bring into your home. Is that correct?
A solar generator?
Or solar generators or solar panels?
Solar generator, the panels that is outside. The panels are sort of accordion pleated, so to speak.
Mhm.
And they charge the generator with the sun, but you can bring that generator into your home so you can plug in appliances in case of, again.
I'll be honest, I don't know as much about solar-powered generators. I'm learning more and more about lithium batteries as I continue with the fire service. But I'll be honest with you, it's a new and emerging technology. Like even the fire service is kind of having to learn.
Issues of SDG&E from San Diego.
Uh-huh.
Issues a backup generator that is solar powered. You have the solar panel outside, but you can bring in that generator to plug in inside and plug in your appliances, because I used to live in the mountains of San Diego,
Mhm.
and they gave us one.
Okay. I guess I would caution with.
It all goes back to the electromagnetic force that supposedly can take out a whole lot of electrical power.
Okay.
And the generator is supposed to be used as a backup.
Mhm.
However, if there's no sun, you can't charge a panel. But here in California, we have sun all the time, or almost all the time. And so that was my question about the dangers of bringing something like that particular solar-powered generator into the home, so that you can plug in appliances in case of EM. Just a question.
So our fire code evolves every 3 years. And as we learn more about lithium ion and the dangers or safety items, those will be added. And I'm sure in the next few years, we're going to be changing and adding more restrictions on lithium ion. But at this time, if that device goes through like Underwriter's laboratory
UL.
and it's had extensive testing, as long as it's approved for that use, the fire code doesn't touch it. So as long as it's doing what it says it's supposed to be doing, it's been tested.
I just thought you would have more information than I would, because you're always out in the field and you're getting many questions from people who've been through situations.
That's a unique one. We're not seeing generators in the home. People have gas-powered generators
Yes, correct.
because we've had some big storms,
Yes.
but we have not got questions regarding that.
Yeah. You're my
Those-
first.
Those, from my knowledge, don't come into the home. But they do have to be fueled.
Yeah, with any device, I would always look at the recommendation and what's approved for that use. So you'll see items that'll say for outdoor use only. That needs to stay outside.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
In the fall and in the spring, our heating and air conditioning people come out and do like a checkup.
Mhm.
And whenever they come, I always make sure I have batteries. And when they do that, I have them go and change it.
I love that.
I love that
That's
idea.
so smart.
Yeah.
Everybody else, has that done.
That's smart.
And it doesn't cost anything, because they're always there checking your stuff. And they, usually if you get your heating and air from that company, they put new ones up when they install.
That's great.
So that kind of falls under them.
Perfect.
That's another great resource to keep in your toolkit, right? I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Well, we really appreciate your time and your attention and your questions. You asked some really good questions, and we hope that we gave you some good information and some resources to use. And at this point, we will turn it back over to you. We know that you have the rest of your social hour, right? So there's more snacking. Right? But if you have any questions, please feel free to look us up online. We hope to come back out again and maybe discuss more fire safety topics with you. For instance, we got questions today about fire extinguishers. A lot of people don't know how to operate a fire extinguisher. It's amazing to me, and it's a good skill to have. So thank you again, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. All right.